Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol are two incredibly talented fighters. But when this fight was all said and done, I couldn't help but feel a little unsatisfied. Like there was just a little bit more that I wanted to see. Best way I can explain it is like you go out to a really nice restaurant and you get this just amazing looking dessert. But when it's all said and done and you take that last bite, for whatever reason, it just didn't quite hit the spot. You just wanted a little bit more. Like that's how I feel about this one. And personally, going into it, I thought Beterbiev was going to get the victory. I didn't think it was going to take him 12 rounds to do it. And maybe that's me. Maybe my expectations were a little bit too high. So when the knockout didn't come, when it went all 12 rounds, by definition, it kind of lacked a little bit of drama. There was never really that huge explosive moment that a lot of us thought we were going to get. Instead, what we got was this very high-level chess match. And let me start off by saying this. Bivol fought a great fight. He fought a better fight than I thought he could have. Going in, we all looked at him as the boxer. We all knew that he was a guy who was going to be wanting to keep it on the outside and use movement. He did exactly that. Did it at a high level. Did it for the vast majority of the fight. Okay? Great jab. Great way that he kept the distance. Great lateral movement. We all know that Beterbiev is good at cutting the ring off. Beterbiev is that guy who wants to back you up against the ropes, wants to get you in the corner, and wants to be able to start to unload and get his shots off. And we saw Bivol got backed up against the ropes plenty of times against Canelo. That's exactly what we didn't see with Beterbiev. He was constantly using the lateral movement, constantly using the jab, constantly finding his spots and getting to the positions that he wanted to get to. And even though that jab didn't look quite as crisp as we've seen it in the past, he was doubling it up, tripling it up. He was using it incredibly effectively. And the counterpunching. Beautiful counterpunching. I mean, anytime you're dealing with a guy like Beterbiev, who's known as the aggressor and being on the front foot, which is exactly what he was in this fight, you got to get some respect from him. You got to find a way to keep him off. You got to be able to score some points. If you can land the big shot, you got to be able to hurt him. Now look, Beterbiev was never hurting there, but this was beautiful counterpunching by Bivol. He was constantly moving, constantly getting to his spots, picking and popping. He was countering the jab, coming over at the top of it with his right hand. He was countering with combinations. That was probably the best thing of the entire sequences that we saw. He was counterpunching with combinations. You will find incredibly high-level counterpunchers who only counterpunch with single shots. It's safer, it's easier, it's cleaner. It lets you score a point, it lets you do some damage, it lets you back out and be defensive when you want to. There's a whole host of reasons for only counterpunching with a single shot. Bivol says, no, I'm counterpunching with the combinations. And it worked out great because a lot of those times, it wouldn't be the first shot that would land. It would be the second or the third punch in the combination that would end up doing the damage, that would end up landing against Beterbiev, that would end up scoring Bivol the points. Now, all that being said, make no mistake about it, Beterbiev went in there and fought incredibly well himself. Okay, he was constantly the aggressor, constantly on the front foot. He was finding ways to match Bivol's footwork. He didn't cut the ring off as much as I would have liked. Okay, he was able to get to his spots sometimes. He was able to follow Bivol around a lot of times. But he's known for backing guys up against the ropes. He's known for getting them in the corner. He's known for not letting them off the hook. That's why the man has a 100% knockout ratio coming into this fight. But time and time again throughout this fight, Bivol was able to use that lateral movement. He was able to get out of the corner. He was able to keep his back off the ropes. He was able to get back towards the center of the ring. And look, Beterbiev was matching him in the sense that he was staying with him. He was in positions. He was in range and distances a lot of times to land his shots. But because he couldn't cut him off, because he wasn't faster, because he couldn't beat him to the spot, that's why he was never really able to get any power off. We never saw one time throughout this fight when we looked and we just saw this clear-cut, definitive, hard shot from Artur Beterbiev, right? The type of shot that he's known for, the type of shots that drops people. It just didn't happen, and it was because he was never able to set his feet. He was constantly moving. Now, that being said, let me say this about his power. We saw the way Dmitry Bivol's face looked after that fight. We heard him in the post-fight interview acknowledging the amount of power that Beterbiev had. That's in spite of the fact that he never really landed clean. That's in spite of the fact that he was never able to set his feet and get a hard shot off. Bivol was putting that glove up. He was tucking down. Beterbiev was constantly moving, unable to set, and he still lumped dude up. He still had all kinds of bruises and looked like he was worse for wear when that fight was all said. That's the type of power that Artur Beterbiev has. That's the type of power that makes sparring partners quit. That's the type of power that had all kinds of people picking him heading into this fight. It's legit. And even though he wasn't able to land super clean, Bivol felt it. And it wasn't just about the power. Artur had his moments during this fight. There was a lot of times that he was able to get on the inside. He was able to get to that middle range and do some work. There were times he was able to counter what Bivol was doing, particularly when we talk about those later rounds. He was going to the body a little bit earlier. Not quite as much as I would have liked, but he was going to the body. Bivol towards those late rounds, maybe 9th, 10th round, so to speak, he started to slow down. Beterbiev took that. He took advantage. He put his foot on the gas. He was able to go in there. He was able to get some work done. And it was good that he did because he needed those last rounds on all the judges' scorecards, right? We had the draw and then we had the two closer ones. He needed those late rounds to be able to pull away, to be able to separate himself, to be able to get the win. Now, I watched this fight when it happened. Going into that decision, I didn't think Artur was going to win it. I thought Bivol won the fight. I didn't score it live or anything like that, but just the feel of the whole thing, the way that it was coming off to me, I gave the fight to Bivol. Went back, watched it again. Gave it to Bivol again. I picked Artur going into this one. I wanted him to win. I enjoy watching both of these guys as fighters, but going in, I thought Bivol might have been a little bit overrated. I thought we might have been giving a little bit too much credit to him because of what we saw with Canelo, and that wasn't necessarily going to play out well or play out the same way or how we thought what we were going to see against Artur. You know, Bivol can be hit. He didn't have, last night that defense was good. Probably the best that we've seen from him. I thought, he's going to get caught by Artur. That power is going to make a difference. So it wasn't like I came in wanting, expecting, hoping, thinking that we were going to see Bivol come out with his victory. But after I got done watching the fight, that's exactly what I thought. Watched it the second time, that's exactly what I thought. I find it hard to give 7 or 8 rounds in there to Beterbiev. But he came on strong at the end. I liked a lot of what I saw. I want to see a rematch. I think if we saw a rematch between these guys, that we would see a better performance from both men. I think that once they both started kind of getting in the rhythm and the flow and they both started cooking, that's when we started to see good stuff from them. I think if we see that rematch, we're going to see Bivol start to make some moves because he understands more about that power and more about Artur. I think Artur having extra time coming back off that meniscus surgery and understanding exactly how Bivol's movements are, he'll be able to track him down a little better and hopefully get him against the ropes, get him in the corner, be able to do his work a little better, or even find ways to work the angles that he doesn't get off a little bit more on his power shots. Maybe what he really needs to do is invest in the body a little bit more early. He was throwing a lot of punches, not very accurate, is what it is. I think there's adjustments that can be made. Now, should it be an immediate rematch, or should we be looking at the winner of David Benavidez versus David Morrell, and that's the guy who should be getting it, and then we should be getting a rematch on the back end of that? Who's to say? It'll be an interesting. It's an interesting thought either way. But Artur's getting old. We can't put it, older, right? We can't put it off too much longer. But it's definitely a fight I want to see. I think both of these men can put in a better performance. As much as I like this one, as much as they both brought to the table, it wasn't what we were all hoping for. It wasn't that juiciness and that explosive just battle of these two indomitable wills as much as it was a chess match, highly technical. But I'd like to see it again. So let me know what you guys think. Were you impressed with this fight? Do you want to see it again? And what do you think should be next for Artur Beterbiev?